Y'all, look how long my hair is getting. The collagen's working. Remember when I cut my hair to like kiss my collarbone, bish? It's been growing. Hey, best friend. Hey, y'all, did you miss me? I know I missed y'all too. I have been working so hard for you guys, and I promised I have so many videos coming for y'all. But this is the first of many. Welcome back to my channel, y'all. Welcome back, Glam Fam. Everybody take a seat around the table. Today we are here for a story time. Of course, this is y'all's favorite because y'all love to be messy. So today's story time is going to be talking about my messy ass and like some of the shit that I always talk about the stupid shit that I did when I was a teenager, and this is no different, okay? Let me get my glittery ass cup out the way. I don't know what it was as a teenager, but I tried it. I had a phase where I was like super attracted to the bad boys. I don't know what it is about all of us, but we just have that moment where we're just attracted to the bad. We're just attracted to the, you're probably gonna end up in prison the rest of your life. It's kind of sexy. So if you'd like to hear that story, please stick around. Obviously, grab your wine, grab your snacks, grab everything you need. So before we get started, as per usual, I'm going to be picking out our Glamazon shot of the day. I know, it has been forever. Honestly, I just need y'all to tell me, do you guys want to see a Glamazon shot every single video? Because thus far, I've only been doing them in story times and Ask Nikki's because those are my highest viewed videos. But if you guys want me to pick one of you guys every single video, let me know down below. Comment and let me know if you guys would like to see that. Oh my God, yeah. Oh my God! Stop it right now. Hold the fuck up. You just slayed my entire life. Everybody say what's up to our girl. You can find her on Instagram at JessXRain. Look, okay, she had a whole ass marketing campaign in my pretty petty hoodie, girl. You look so amazing. Thank you so much for supporting my pretty petty collection. I hope that you enjoy it. It looks amazing on you. Oh, there are more. Oh yeah, girl, you look so beautiful. Thank you so much for all of your love and support. Thank you for tagging me in this photo. Thank you so much for being one of my ride or dies, girl. You are so gorgeous and I just love you to pieces. Thank y'all so much for loving me and supporting me always and just being my ride or dies. Y'all don't know how much that means to me. If you guys are interested in shopping your own pretty petty merch, definitely look in my description box. You can shop my pretty petty collection at shopnikkiglamour.com. I have everything you could possibly imagine. We have crew necks, we have t-shirts, we have hoodies, coffee mugs, masks, whatever it is that you're looking for, you can definitely find it on my shop. So definitely check out my description box. But girl, thank you so much. You guys know that I would not be here without you, and I could not do this without each and every one of you guys. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Now let's get into this story time. I just want to let you guys know, for those of you guys that have been asking or want some more information, if you guys are interested in more story times and true crime videos and Ask Nikki's and stuff like that, if you guys would like more of me in your life, consider subscribing to my OnlyFans account. I know, I just want to let you know that I have been putting content up over there. So far I have one story time over there and it went fantastically. I don't have to worry about censoring myself or talking about certain things that aren't going to upset the YouTube algorithm, you know what I mean? So if you guys would like to check me out over there, I would definitely appreciate it. But if not, your girl will still be here on YouTube every single week. So definitely make sure you're subscribed, hit that notification bell so you're not missing out on any new videos. But if you have any questions, in the description box is where you'll find the answers. So let's go ahead and get into this story time. So today I'm going to be telling you guys about the time that I was like kind of being a little fast. So this story takes place when I was like 16, I think, and I was interning at the courthouse in Denver. I would help out during the summers and like winter break and stuff like that. And I got to know some of the employees there, including some judges and magistrates, some clerks and stuff like that. Anyways, girl, I was like kind of making some connects, and I ended up going into a formal internship with the courthouse. They just kind of got used to me coming after school, and they knew that they could have filing projects for me and data entry projects for me and running case information from one courtroom to another. It's just stuff like that, little things here and there. I was not like an actual employee, but I interned there and got a lot of experience there. My references came from there, all of that, okay? Initially, I wanted to become an attorney when I was in grade school. I thought that that's what I wanted. And then I met a few attorneys and I was like, they all seem stressed out. They all have gray hair and they all take their work home with them. Like they never had a personal life. Now look at me, girl, I'll be working all the time. By the time I got into high school, I wasn't really going down the same path. Instead, I started shifting my focus to becoming a forensic psychiatrist. And I actually met somebody in that field in the courthouse, and I spoke with her, and she was so inspirational, and she told me about her background and what she does in the courtroom, and I just really found it interesting. interesting. The two most interesting sectors were crossing with that particular profession. So I was so interested, and all of a sudden I was like, you know what? I want to be a forensic psychiatrist. So I started trying to figure out the steps to take in order to go down that route. But anyways, girl, so I would do all that, but you know, there were little projects here and there that most of the time I would finish pretty fast. So if I finished early, the next thing that I loved doing, y'all, I don't know what it is, but I loved sitting in on court cases for whatever, whether it was traffic court cases, civil court cases, like domestic, any court case that was going on, you can walk in and sit down and just be there for the proceedings. So I would do that. I would just go into random courtrooms and take a seat and just see how the whole thing would play out. And I was just really interested in the process, right? And plus I was kind of like nosy and I just wanted a tea, you know? And like straight up, y'all, because, you know, it's a courthouse, I bet you can only imagine the types of fights that would happen like in the courtroom, y'all, like especially through civil matters. So like things would get messy. They would start yelling and cussing and I would be like there for all the tea, you know what I mean? So I loved going in and out of courtrooms, right? So anyways, girl, fast forward, and I've been doing this at the courthouse for a good minute. I'm like all up in the tea, and I have basically sat in court cases involving a lot of different matters. The only one that I had not sat in on yet was the juvenile sector. I had never gone over there. So the way that the courthouse used to be set up, because now Denver has an entirely different courthouse called the Lindsay Flanagan building. I did not work in there. I worked in the OG building. So the way that they had that set up was like one side was all of the traffic, general sessions, civil court, all of that. And on the complete opposite side was nothing but juvenile, because I guess it's just because they're dealing with minors or something, but they have their courtrooms on the other side of the building entirely, and they bring the juveniles in from an entirely different entrance, and you know, it's like their own independent part. And I had never gone over there. I had never like seen one of their court proceedings or anything like that, right? So one day came around and I was helping one of my clerk friends out, and I was just like doing random errands around the courthouse, and I had been filing a few things. One of my mom's friends, who happened to be a court clerk, she had a case file with her, and I was walking in the main hallway of the courthouse, and I think I was like headed to the bathroom or something, and she saw me and she was like, Nikki, hey, can I talk to you? And I was like, yeah. So, you know, I stop and I talk to her and I'm like, hi, Mrs. So-and-so, how are you? She's like, oh, I'm good, sweetheart, how's school? And this and that. And I was like, oh, great. And she goes, okay, great. She's like, look, I don't mean to bother you. Are you busy right now? And I was like, no, I just finished, you know, this and that. Why, you know, what can I help you with? And she was like, well, she's like, I have this meeting that I have to get to, but I really need to get this case file over to Judge. We'll call him, I don't want to give the judge's real name. We'll call him Judge Romero. Okay, let's just say that. So she was like, I need you to take this case file over to Judge Romero's chambers. He needs this within the hour. He's prepping for a case that he's about to go over. And I was like, oh, so, you know, she's telling me all this before she even finishes. I'm like, yes, Mrs. So-and-so, I got it. Don't worry about it. Go to your meeting. I will run this over to him right now. So instead of going to the bathroom or wherever the hell I was headed, I take this case file. I am immediately on my way to the juvenile courts. Obviously, I'm not going to be walking around in the bathroom with somebody's personal case file. You know what I mean? And so I take the case file and I hustle and I go all the way to the other end of the courthouse, and I'm like walking down the hallway. I look down at the case file, and you know, any case file, it'll say like on the small tab on the side, it'll say the name of the person in which the case is about, right? I look down and I just remember seeing the name of the defendant. We'll call him Michael, okay? So it was like Michael Gonzalez or something like that. And I was like, oh, okay, crazy. So I read the name and then I kept walking, and I got to Judge Romero's courtroom, and I had to go through the courtroom. They didn't have any proceedings going on at that point, so it was empty. So, you know, I walk in there and I see the clerk, and she's sitting there, and a lot of times they'll be the first ones in there because they're prepping for a hearing. So she was the only one in there, and I walked in and I was like, hi, I'm Nikki. You know, Miss So-and-so asked if I could run this case file down. Can I give this to you, or would you prefer me to give it to the judge? Now, let me tell you something about court clerks. They are very busy. The amount of work that they put on court clerks, and I'm going to be real, they do not make as much as they should. She was so swamped. She barely even looked up at me. She was like, oh yeah, is it Michael Gonzalez? I was like, yes, ma'am, it is. And she was like, yeah, go ahead and just run it to the judge's chambers. The judge's chambers is his personal office, you know what I mean? So I was like, I had never been told to just walk into a judge's chambers, you always have to be invited. So I was like, oh shit, are you sure? And she was like, yeah, he's not in there. Just place it on his desk, you know, right by his keyboard. He'll take a look at it. He really needs to see it before our hearings begin. And I was like, okay. So she kind of like shoes me on, and she goes like this because the chambers are behind her. So here I go. I got the case file of Mr. Michael Gonzalez, and I'm like, okay, here we go. So I go into the judge's chambers, and it is so weird being in somebody's office like that, especially a judge. Like, so I was like, don't touch nothing, don't look at shit, you know what I mean? I walk in, and you know, it looks just like you would think a judge's chambers would look. They have like the one wall full of nothing but books because they're insanely smart. But judges, straight up, I think I've met maybe one judge that was like semi-organized, but all the other ones, girl, messy as hell, just had stuff everywhere, right? So I like walk in there, and I'm like, oh shit, like, you know, I know she told me to put it on his desk and like, you know, put it next to his computer, but like there are y'all, I looked at his desk, and he had files everywhere, and I really did not want the file of Michael Gonzalez to kind of like get lost in all of this. So I'm like, you know, kind of standing there, and I'm like, okay. So like I'm trying to scan the desk, and like I'm like, okay, where do I put this? And all of a sudden I hear, can I help you? Yeah, I turn around, and it's Judge Romero, and I'm like, hi, Your Honor. Hi, I am so sorry. I was like, you know, Miss So-and-so out there let me know that I could come in here to drop off Michael Gonzalez's case file. And I'm like holding onto it, and I'm like, I just don't know where to place it. You know what I mean? And like, I didn't want to make him feel like I was calling him, you know, messy, but he really was messy. So I was like, you know, can I just like, is there a particular place you'd like me to put it? He just laughed at me, and he was such a cool judge, and he was like, it's fine. He was like, I know, my wife gets after me about this all the time. I'm really great at organizing. Like, if you would like me to come in here and fix this situation, I definitely can. So he comes around his desk, he takes the case file. He was like, I'm sorry, I don't think we've had the pleasure of meeting. And I was like, oh yeah. I was like, duh. Okay, so I had to go through the entire story of who my mom is and who I've helped and how long I've been interning here and all of that. And he was like, oh, that's awesome. He was like, well, I will definitely keep you in mind because I've been needing some help trying to keep this all together. And I was like, oh, well, you know, you just let me know, you know, anytime I'm available. You know, this is where I work out of usually in general sessions. So like, if you ever need me, you know, just call me. And he was like, oh, I definitely will. And like, he opens the case file and he has it, and he was like, oh, this kid. And he's like reading through it, and I'm like just kind of sitting there, and he was like, you know what, he just has so much potential, and I really hate seeing this when this happens. I'm judging a kid for doing something really stupid when they have the utmost potential, and like, this is gonna be one of the hardest cases that I'm looking at this week. And you know, I'm like, oh really? So you know, I never opened the case file. I didn't even know what this was pertaining to, but the judge had this weird way of like talking up this kid that was like this case file belonged to, but at the same time being really disappointed. And I was like, oh my God, really? And so I kind of like kicked myself in the ass for not reading the case file because I really, really wanted to know. But that's okay, because guess what? I can sit in on Judge Romero's cases. It's fine. So in that moment, I took the opportunity to ask Judge Romero if I could sit in on some of his cases. He had a few minutes, and he was just kind of like chit-chatting with me, and I talked to him about like my dream of wanting to become a forensic psychiatrist and like how I just really enjoyed the process, and if I could sit in on it, if that would be okay. And he was like, oh yeah, absolutely. So he was like, you know, because you're a minor as well, I don't have any problem with that. So he allowed me to enter his courtroom later on that day to sit in on some court cases involving juveniles, right? Wanted to see what goes on in juvenile courts. I had always heard that things kind of proceed differently with minors in comparison to adults, as you can probably imagine. So I just wanted to see what differences there were. Anyways, it was a pleasant conversation, and I left the judge's chambers and I went back to like my regular area. I talked to my mom, and I was like, oh my God, you know, I just met Judge Romero. He is so nice and this and that. And she was like, oh yeah. She was like, you know, I haven't had a chance to really connect with him, but he is an awesome judge. From now until you get off of work, I'm going to be in his courtroom looking over his proceedings. Yeah, immediately my mom was like, is that right? Yeah. She was like, Nikki, look, let me tell you something. She was like, I don't want you going over there getting no ideas. Okay, this is very different. You're going to be seeing kids around your own age. And it was like my mom knew. Like, your mama knows, okay? Like, she was just like, don't be trying to get no ideas. and like just keep your head on straight and pay attention to what these kids are getting in trouble for, because I don't want you to end up in that same spot. You know what I mean? So she has that conversation with me and I'm like, yeah, mom, I know. Okay. Like, okay, it's fine. Like, I didn't understand why she was saying that to me. I was like, I don't really get emotionally invested into any of these cases, no matter which one I see. So like, why you treat me like that? You know what I mean? So I kind of cut it off early and I was like, yeah, mom, I know. So I remember after that, I had gotten hungry, and right outside the courthouse, there was like this hot dog lady with her stand, and she knew me really well. So I went out there, I got my hot dog, I got some chips, and I decided to eat really fast before I went to Judge Romero's courtroom, because it's very rude to get up in the middle of a proceeding and walk out. So I wanted to make sure that I was fed, that I had gone to the bathroom, because I just wanted to go in there and sit in there for multiple people's cases, if that makes sense. And I'm talking to the hot dog lady, and you know, she was kind of cool. Her and my mama ended up beefing a little while after that, but we'll talk about that another day. So she and I were talking, and then I just hear woo, like this huge bus coming up the street, and it straight up looked like a penitentiary bus. Okay, bitch, like it was one of those really rounded, like it almost looked like a double-decker bus, but it wasn't. It literally passes right by us, and I was like, oh my god, what is that? And the hot dog lady, she was like, oh yeah, that's what they transport, like the people that are in jail, or even like the kids that are in jail, in those buses, so that they can come to their hearing. And like, I didn't know this. Like, I had never been in trouble like that before. So I was like, oh, for real? Like, that's how they transport them? And she was like, yeah, like that's their bus. So she was like, that one in particular is the one for the kids. And I was like, oh, okay. And sure enough, it said juvenile on the side. So this bus pulls into that little parking lot right by the courthouse, and I'm literally on the sidewalk, and I kind of like walk down a little bit just to start unloading the bus. And it is nothing but teenage boys, okay? It is nothing but, they separate the boys and the girls during their court hearings. So on this bus, at least that was to my knowledge, because on this bus on that day, nothing but dudes came off that bus. Anywhere from 18 years old down to, like, I'm not even kidding, 9, 10 years old, right? They had the handcuffs on. They had the shackles around their feet. They're having to walk together. It's not a game. So, like, they all get off the bus at the same time. And it's this huge line of kids, and I'm just sitting there with my hot dog and with my chips, and I'm like, oh my god, like, all y'all in trouble? Oh my god, right? Scarf down my hot dog, I scarf down my chips, and I throw everything away, and I have to go all the way around the courthouse and go in through the regular entrance, going through security and all that, in order to get back in the courthouse, and then go all the way back down the building to the juvenile area. I'm so used to just like regular hearings where people are not necessarily in jail, you know what I mean? There were some instances where you had somebody being transported from jail for their hearing, but it wasn't as often. But the juvenile courts had the entire wall full of kids that were in, you know, a juvenile jail, and they had been transported. So I legit turned down this corner, y'all, and like I couldn't even turn back. The minute I turned down the corner, I'm in the same hallway with these juvenile kids that are shackled up and like literally chained to one another. I wasn't expecting that, and I was like, oh my god, like all of y'all are right here. Keep walking, and I walk up to where near like the door, and that's where some of the attorneys are, that's where some parents are, that's where everybody else that's not a defendant would stand. So I went all the way up to the front, right? And I'm trying not to make like eye contact, because like, I don't know, this is kind of weird, right? I'm just trying to be quiet, just like be a fly on the wall. That's just what I wanted to do. We're waiting for the courtroom to open. After a while, I looked up from my phone, and I just kind of like glanced over it. And, you know, I look up and I just do like a quick scan, and there's like, you know, a few boys that are around like 17, 18 years old. They look fucking pissed. There are a few kids that are like, you know, 9, 10, 11 years old. They looked scared. And then while I was like doing my quick scan, I see this guy. And he was looking dead ass at me. And when I tried to do my scan, like our eyes literally met and locked. And I was like, you know, he's like all shackled up and shit, and he's sitting there, and he just looks at me. And when I looked at him, he just smiled and went, Y'all, I don't know what the fuck happened to me. I had butterflies. I like got all warm and tingly inside, and I was like, what the fuck? So, you know, like he does that, and I like kind of like look away, and I'm like, oh my God, like did he just smile at me? So, you know, I just kind of like sit there, and you know, when that happens, you can't help but look again just to see, right? So I look over again, and sure enough, he's like looking at me, and he was like, he just kind of sat there, and he was like, this is so crazy. Like he legit said that to me. Like while I'm standing there, he was like, this is so crazy. And I was like, like I was like, I'm not talking to you, like I don't know you like that, but like he for real said that to me. Two of the adults that I was standing by, I don't know who they were. I don't know whether or not they were attorneys or parents or whatever, but they heard him, and so they hear him talk to me, and they kind of like look over at me like, do you know him? And I was like, oh yeah, this is crazy. Yes, this is crazy. And I like looked at those people, and I was like, I don't fucking know him. Like, you know, like I'm not here for him. Like I don't know. Not even 30 seconds later, they start opening the courtroom, and everybody starts filing in. So they have the guests come in first, and then on the very back wall, they will leave the entire back row of the courtroom empty so that all of the juveniles can sit on that back row together. So they're all there for each other's cases. Everybody knows everybody's business, girl. It is very embarrassing. I ended up sitting in like the second row back, and then all of the other juveniles were in the back of the room. So I'm not gonna lie, I felt like that dude, whoever he was staring a hole into the back of my head. Like I immediately felt like, oh my God, he's watching me. Like, I don't know, you know, like the teenage bullshit, you know, where you're like, oh my God, he might be like, does he think I'm pretty? Like, now keep in mind, because of where I was standing when that happened, it stands to reason that he was like in the front of the line. Like he was like the third or fourth person in line. This wasn't a trial. Don't misunderstand. So none of this was trial. It was all just going to see the judge initially, right, for your charges. And this is their moment to plead guilty or not guilty. At that point, if they plead not guilty, then they go to trial. So this was like the initial hearing. Anyways, girl, so, you know, one dude comes up, I hear all his business. He had been involved in like a petty theft issue. The second dude comes up, he had been involved in like assaulting another student at his school. Third dude comes up. I don't even remember his story, because by that point I was getting nervous because the dude that had talked to me in the hallway was next. This is my moment, girl, to see, is he crazy? Like, is he like violent? What happened? I'm looking at Judge Romero, and he turns over his sheets, and he's like, okay, next we have Michael Gonzalez. You step up to the stand, please, young man. Michael Gonzalez? Y'all, I look up, and it's the same dude. He stands up. They undo his shackles on his feet, but they still keep his handcuffs on and everything. Keep in mind, he came into the courtroom after me. So this is the first time I'm seeing him stand up, and like legit, y'all, he was like 6'3". Okay. He was tall as hell. So he stands up, and I'm like, oh my God. And I'm trying to process that this is the same Michael Gonzalez of the case file that I ran down earlier today. So y'all, okay, I immediately had such a crush on him. And I felt like it was fate, because I had his case file in my possession just a few hours earlier. And I was like, what are the motherfucking odds? So I see that you have one count of car theft and another count of endangering a minor. Immediately my heart drops, because I'm like, he endangered a kid, like what happened? So they had him state his name and state his date of birth. When he did that, I found out how old he was, and he was 17, so he was a year older than me. These are the charges that you have been accused of. Do you plead guilty or not guilty? He answered not guilty. There was a situation where it was like his cousin's car or something like that. He was with his little sister. His cousin was not not allowing him to like drive his sister home or something like that. So he ended up just taking the car without permission, without telling anybody, and he took his sister. He ended up getting into a minor car accident, or that's what he said. Nobody was hurt, but I am not guilty of these charges. Then, y'all, the judge started reading down. He was like, you know, honestly, young man, I really hope that you're being honest with me, because you seem like you have a bright future ahead of you. You are on the varsity football team at your school. You know, you have pretty decent grades. Your GPA is at around a 3.7. There are people that are scouting you at your games, son. Like, how could you get yourself involved in something like this? And that dude literally just hung his head and he was like, I don't know. And so the judge was like, okay, well, you know, you have put in your plea of not guilty. Do you understand what that means? You know, that means we will be going forward with the trial and this and that. And Michael was like, yeah, I understand that. In my mind, I was like, oh, you're not like a criminal, but you're kind of bad. So sure enough, he goes back around. He looks at me again. And he goes and sits down. So court was adjourned, and the minute that the judge said that, the sheriffs and deputies or whoever, they got all the juveniles up and started having them file out of the courtroom, right? So they file all out there, and I get up and I'm picking up my purse and like, you know, my things, and I'm like, okay. And we have to wait until they get all of the juveniles out of the courtroom. They still have all the kids lined up against the wall, right? So we have to walk past them. So I let everybody else go in front of me. The attorneys, the parents, whoever else was there, I let them all go, and I was the last person. And of course, y'all know. I start walking down the hallway really slow, and I'm like looking around, and there are no sheriffs, there are no deputies, like they're all at the end of the hallway. And I'm like walking this way, and he looks up at me and he was like, see, I told you this was crazy. And I was like, yeah, it is crazy. I was like, well, you know, I hope everything works out. And he was like, oh yeah, it will. He was like, it definitely will. Right about here. And I'm like walking kind of slow, because you can't just stop and talk to them. You know what I mean? So I like kind of slow down, and I'm like looking at him, and he was like, I know that this sounds really weird, but I just want you to hear me out. He was like, you don't have to if you don't want to, but this is my email. If you ever want to email me, you know, I can email while I'm in there, but I won't be in there for much longer. But I just think that you're beautiful. You know, if you want to say, hey, what's up? You know, definitely drop me a line. Like that fast, okay? That fast. He says that, and he gives me his email address, and I just kind of looked at him, and I was like, all right. And I was like, okay, well, you know, it's nice meeting you. I gotta go. Bye. And, you know, so he like smiles, and I start walking, and like literally 2-3 steps down, I just hear him say, I really hope I get to hear from you. I ended up like going home with butterflies. I don't fucking know what the hell was wrong with me. I let a few days go by, and I didn't do anything. And then I just could not like get him off of my brain. And I ended up, y'all, on like the 3rd or 4th day, I ended up emailing him. And I don't even remember what my email said, but I was like, you know, hey, I'm that girl that you saw at the courthouse, or some stupid shit like that. And I was like, you know, I just hope everything works out with your case and blah, blah, blah. I send it. And literally the next fucking day, my mom is in my room. She walks in my room. She was like, Nikki, let me talk to you. And I was like, oh shit, what happened? So, you know, I sit on my bed, and she's standing at my doorway, and she was like, look, I'm going to tell you this one time. She was like, we're not going to go back and forth about it. I'm not going to be fighting with you about it. And I don't want you doing this shit behind my back. This is very serious. And I was like, okay. And she was like, I know that you tried emailing that little boy. Y'all, I had never talked to my mom about Michael. I had never said anything. Like, she didn't even know that we met. But I guess she went through our home computer, and she got into my email account, and she saw this email that I sent him, right? And the fact that it was to a correctional, like juvenile correctional facility email address. While she was at work the next day, I guess she had pulled his record, and she had a piece of paper in her hand, and she was like, everything on this paper is not only things that he's being accused of, but also things in the past that he has been charged with. I'm telling you right now, you will not be talking to this boy. Do you understand? You guys are not made for each other. This is not about to be your little boyfriend. And if I find out that you continue to try to talk to him, I will tell Judge Romero to never have you sit in on his proceedings ever again if I can't trust you. Do you understand what I'm telling you? This is his record. He has been getting in trouble since he was 8 years old. She was like, and yeah, yes, whatever his issues are, she was like, not my problem. I don't want you with him. Do you understand? I don't want you talking to him like he's bad news, Nikki. And I was like, but you don't know that. She was like, yes, I do. And she like grabbed the paper and she's like, I am not going to do this with you. Do you understand? And I was like, my mom immediately shut it down. Ended up seeing the piece of paper that she was waving around, and he did, y'all. I'm not gonna tell all his business, but he did have some pretty serious charges on his record dating back from when he was like 12 years old. And you know, he was kind of a thug. He was kind of a thug, and he got in a lot of shit, and some of those things may or may not have been drug related. And so yeah, I ended up receiving an email back from him. I don't know what it said. My mom deleted it immediately. After that, she was kind of like monitoring my emails. Then literally a few months later, I saw him in the courthouse again. And this time I was walking down the hallway with my stepdad, and all of the juveniles, again, they were walking down the hallway together, and they passed by us, and I saw Michael. Michael saw me, and legit, he's got fucking handcuffs on, and this boy, for real, goes like this. My stepdad turned so fast, and he was like, are you serious? And I was like, don't even. I literally had to tell him, I was like, Mom already told me. I was like, I met him once. You don't have nothing to worry about. I'm not trying to date him, okay? Like, he's just saying hi. And I was like kind of annoyed because, girl, I saw him again and I was like, dang. I almost got a man's from the hallways of a courthouse like an idiot. So I don't know why we're like this, especially when we're teenagers. We're like, we don't care. We don't care if he's broke. We don't care if he's a criminal. We don't care this. We don't care that. As long as he looks cute, like, what's up? And like, girl, you don't want none of them problems, okay? I thought that I was about that life, but I'm definitely not. I like my men's nice and free. Don't try to find your man's in a place like that, okay? Like, they can tell you all day long and try to twist it. They're never gonna sit there and look at you and be like, yeah, I fucked up. Like, yeah, I did some terrible ass shit. Like, I'm kind of like wholehearted. They're never going to say that. They're always going to say it wasn't that bad. It wasn't them. It was just miscommunication, this and that. Like, girl, don't fall for it. Do not fall for it. I'm so glad I dodged that bullet because I think that he was in and out of being in trouble for years after that. But anyways, y'all, that is my story for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to give me a huge thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed. Love to have your beautiful ass a part of my glam fam. Also, leave me your comments down below. Have you ever tried dating a bad boy? Have you ever tried dating somebody that has a past? Let me know your stories down below. Check out my description box for any links for any questions that you guys might have. I love y'all so much, and I will see your fine ass in my next video. Peace out, y'all.